guys, and welcome to this week's lesson on plant roots and stems. But first, I would like to introduce you to my 3 beautiful bean plants that I actually grew from seed here in my house. I put them in these compostable pots right here, which can actually go straight into the garden like this in our backyard once the weather is warm enough outside. So let's review the parts of the plant. We have the roots down here, and then we have the stems, and then we have the leaves. Now, like we already had learned, plants also can produce flowers and fruits. So my bean plants will produce both flower and fruits when it's mature enough. They're still too young. And you're probably thinking, Mrs. Chink is saying beans are definitely not fruit, they're vegetables. Well, when a plant produces any kind of food, we actually call it the fruit. So it will be producing fruit in a few more months. So let's take a closer look at the roots and the stem. So the roots have 2 very important jobs. Their first job is they act as an anchor to keep the plant in place in the soil. So when a really big gust of wind comes or it's a really windy day, those roots act as a giant anchor to keep the plant in place so it doesn't blow away in the wind. And the roots also protect the plant from water. So if a really big gush of water were to come, the plant would not get washed away. So the roots keep the plant anchored in place from wind and water. The second job of the roots is actually to suck up all the water and nutrients from the soil, and then which get carried up all the way to all the other important parts of the plant. Which then leads me to the stem. The stem has 2 important jobs as well. The first job is to keep the plant upright like this. It acts as the spine of the plant, just like our spine and our back keeps us upright. The second important job of the plant is it is a place where the water moves up and down. I like to call it the water elevator. This is where all the water and nutrients travels from the roots all the way up to the other different parts of the plant. So I actually have an experiment that I want to do with you guys just so I can prove to you that water and nutrients does in fact travel down from the roots all the way up the stem to all the different parts of the plant. So follow me.
For this experiment, you are going to need some celery that has leaves on it. We want the leaves so that we're able to see what happens when water travels down from the roots all the way up to the leaves. If you can't find celery with leaves, you can also use white flowers. White carnations that work really well as well, and you can actually get those from Walmart, Superstore, pretty much any grocery store that sells flowers. You're going to need something to hold water. It could be a glass of water, it could be a vase, it could be anything. And then you're also going to need some food coloring. So I'm using celery, so I'm going to be using red and blue food coloring. Green and yellow does not work very well with celery because celery is already greenish yellow. So that's why I'm using red and blue. If you are using white flowers, you can definitely go ahead and use the green and yellow food coloring. So let's go ahead and get all set up.
Take one of your glasses and you're going to dye the water. So I'm going to take my red food coloring and I'm going to put in a couple drops of red. Make it nice and red like that. Make sure you don't get it on your clothing. Put the lid back on, and I'm going to take one of my celery sticks and I'm going to mix the water. There we go. And I'm going to keep this stalk of celery in this cup of water. Then I'm going to take my blue food coloring and I'm going to dye the water in my second cup. So I'm gonna put a couple drops of blue in there. Make sure I don't get it on my clothes. I'm gonna take my other stalk of celery and I'm gonna go ahead and mix this in. I'm going to add my third piece of celery in here. So now I have my blue celery water and my red celery water. I'm gonna leave these sit overnight, and then hopefully when I come back here tomorrow morning, I should see something happen to the leaves of my celery. And if we think about what we know already about a plant's root and stem, the water gets sucked up by the roots and then it travels all the way up the plant xylem, that's the veins in the stem, and it goes to all the other parts of the plant. So when I wake up tomorrow, I should see the leaves have changed color. I'll see you guys tomorrow to see what happened. Okay, it is now the next morning. Let's take a closer look at our celery. So we have the celery that was in red water. If we take a really close look, look at those leaves. Look at how they have red tips. It almost has like a brown tinge to it. But let's take a look now at the celery that was in the blue water. Look at all the blue tips on the leaves there. The leaves are slowly turning blue. And that's because the water has traveled up the stem in the xylem. That's those little tiny veins in the celery. Traveled up, 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 all the way to the leaves. How cool is that? Let's take one of these out. Let's take a closer look at those xylem. There we go. Focus. Do you see all those little tubes in there? Those are the little veins that the water travels through. Awesome. You guys can definitely do this experiment home too. This is not your assignment for the week, but if you do want to do the experiment, please send me a video on Flipgrid. I would love to see how your celery, or if you tried white carnations, I would love to see how they turned out. See you later. Bye.